So, onto the battery systems. I ended up switching my plan to using Life P04, which is lithium iron phosphate batteries, and A123 is, I believe, the company that makes them, and I believe their size or form factor is called 18650. And so they're basically like, they look like this, I think. Something like that. I'm not sure how the tabs look or whatever, but it's basically like that. And that's so cool because I can then mount the batteries in the same way I'm mounting the servos, which I've shown in a previous video. So like, I could have battery, and then stack them. And then another one here. And then have cross supports between the different batteries. And making sure to keep a gap between the columns of like, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And that will allow for airflow between them. And then each battery will be coated in double stick tape and cotton cloth and then wetted down through the sprinkler system. So every battery will be kept wet and completely waterproof. Before that, obviously. The double stick tape membrane should keep it waterproof. So it'll be like battery, 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 battery. Like that. And then it's coming down, same thing. So they'll be stacked vertically in columns and then horizontally in rows. And all sewn together with the cross supports between each column and air channels to flow through. And what's cool about this is you can like set these columns vertical and like just have them hanging, like connecting between the pelvis and the bottom rib cage. So it can be like and you got the pelvis, and it could just like be connected. So it's almost like the batteries then become like the abs, but they're just hanging loosely, just flapping around inside the stomach. And that's how they can be mounted. Not even attached to any firm surface. They're just kind of waving around in there. And then obviously there's going to be wiring coming off of them going, you know, all over the body. But yeah, they're just going to be mounted vertically and all sewn together. And then these lines, mounting them to bones, should be elastic, like made of, perhaps I'm thinking spandex cloth, so that if you punch the robot in the stomach, all the batteries would just move out of the way. They would just shift and move. They'd all be very flexible. So there'd be nothing rigid about it, and you'd leave plenty of slack in the wiring to the batteries. So if you punch the robot in the stomach, the batteries would just move all the way until they touch the spine, basically. And they'd even split and go around the spine and go into the back. So by having this loose organic structure, nothing's going to break. They can flex and move around and not really be rigidly attached to anything. They're just kind of like swimming in the body, just hanging, like a bat hanging from a cave. Just tons of batteries just hanging there. So actually, a better analogy would be like, the batteries would be like the lights on a Christmas tree. You wrap the lights around the branches of a Christmas tree, and if you were to punch the tree, the lights don't like get damaged. They just move out of the way. So that's how the batteries will be mounted. And this is about where we're going to have them. We're going to have the batteries in the lower abdomen. The lungs are going to be up in the rib cage. The batteries are going to be down here, like in the abdominal area. Also, the robot will be able to obviously run off batteries, but he'll also be able to run off of direct wall outlet power. If he's plugged into the wall, he'll run off wall outlet power first, and if the batteries need to add to that power, they can. But it will try to put priority on using the wall outlet power, because that's cheaper. Like, we don't know how long the robot will be plugged in, so use that power that's available first. So it's going to like be greedy about using its batteries. It's going to use its batteries as little as it can. Plus, every time you use batteries, they get a little older and a little bit nearer to being replaced. So it's better to use the wall outlet power when possible. And the wall outlet's going to plug, so like, here's the robot's back. And okay. I think the plug should be recessed like behind a flap of skin, which can be pretty much invisible. You just peel back the flap, and there'd be two prongs coming out, like behind here. So you'd have to peel the flap back, and then you'd have your two prongs, which would then lead into your whatever. Okay. So they'd be hidden behind this flap of skin. And in order to plug it in, then you would just need an extension cord. This is the female end of an extension cord. And then the extension cord would just be plugged into the wall. So there you have your wall outlet. And then that will plug into the back of the robot. These will become united. So everything will be hidden. When it's not plugged in, this skin flap can close with a seamless closure. You won't even be able to see it, and it will. If the robot was naked, you wouldn't even know how it plugs in. Just like on Ex Machina, all the parts for the silicone skin would be hidden. So the robot would just reach around, lift up his flap, and plug himself in using an extension cord whenever he has that available. And the extension cord, when he switches room, he can just wrap it up, like around his arm. You know, reel it up into a ball just like you would when you're putting stuff away after doing a job. And he can just carry the whole extension cord to another room and plug himself into that room. Or if he's going to be going to the store or whatever, he could just like put the extension cord in a backpack and bring it with him. He'll probably want to always bring it with him because he'll never know when he'll need to recharge. Ideally, he'd be able to plug himself into a car DC adapter so that he can charge while driving on a road trip, and he'd be able to charge anywhere he goes, whether it's a coffee shop, a store, anywhere he can find an outlet he can charge up. So if the batteries are located here and the main power supply plug is in his lower back, that works out because it's kind of near to the batteries. I can keep all the power supply and battery systems all around the same area right here. I feel like the lower back is the best place because it's out of his way. And if I'm doing like videos of him dancing or something, or talking, you can kind of hide the extension cord by having, like, that's why I put it at an angle as well. The extension cord would plug in inside the body more, and so you can like run the cord hugging the back more, like as opposed to this. Like if this was the robot's back and his butt, right? Imagine the cord coming out like that. Like that sucks because then you can see it coming out. But if you have the plugging in like more at an angle, then it can run along down the back and underneath the clothes down the leg and then come out through like his pant leg or something, or just come out under his shirt and then go to the wall. I don't know, it's just like it can be more hidden if you hide it down his pant leg. Like if he's sitting down, you wouldn't see the plug anywhere. It'd just be running along the floor. So I'll give you some options just to hide the plug when you're doing filming. Like if you don't want people to know the robot's getting additional power from a wall outlet, you could hide it. Because anytime people see a cord when they're looking at a humanoid robot, they're like, you know, that robot sucks. It's corded, you know, it's tethered to something. It needs to be plugged in to work. I don't want people to think that, so I would want to keep the charging cord hidden at all times. Anytime I make a video about the robot, the charging cord will be hidden. So people know this is a mobile robot. It can leave the house. It can drive on a trip. It doesn't need to be at all times plugged into something. I thought about having the robot be able to travel. So we're very close to having self-driving cars. I always had this idea, how the heck would the robot get from point A to point B? Like, could the robot actually go to McDonald's, order me a value meal, and bring it back home? Is that possible? And right now, it'd be tough. The robot would have to ride a bike or walk there, and he might get stolen. You know, that's a security risk. You got tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars piece of machinery, depending on how you value it. Time put in, whatever. You got this expensive machinery just walking around for anybody just to grab, a snatch and grab? I don't think so. But